you read a lot of things about like people on their deathbeds and stuff, and it's like no one ever talks about the amount of money they made, right? It's about the experience they had, the time they spent with their families. Like, that's the one thing you cannot put a price tag on. I tell everybody this, like, you cannot put a price tag on your time.
Good concentration equals good shooting. Good shooting does not equal good concentration.
You have to play to your strengths and to your given, what you've been given.
You can't try to be something you're not. Jim
Braddock was the boxer's name. Anyways, but he made this marvelous comeback and was beating everybody, and he was winning, and I freaking sobbed, man, just because I love that victory,
right?
Rudy. Yeah, exactly. I guess everybody likes that.
Hey folks, Corey Jacobsen here with elk101.com, and you're listening to my favorite podcast, The Gritty Bowmen. Stay gritty.
I pissed Aaron off on more than one occasion, and I thought, this is it. I'm going to die out here. I'm anxious to get Dirk and Donnie on together without you.
No, there's no
to get their side of Corey Jacobsen.
They don't like to talk. They're very shy. I got thinking, I threw them under the bus last year. They aren't carrying the sidearms for the grizzly bear. They're carrying a sidearm so when a grizzly comes, they can shoot me.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. Corey and I are going to talk about his season. And I'm going to share a little bit about mine and hunting partners a little bit. So, hunting partners, mine have been traditionally bigger and stronger than me and more experienced fighters. And yet, I can't help but do things that piss them off at times to where my life is endangered. Anthony, one time, I thought he was going to beat me up and then have to carry me out of the woods. Like, have you been in any Aaron as well? I pissed Aaron off on more than one occasion, and I thought, this is it. I'm going to die out here. So, but I love those guys. They're like brothers to me, and there's that dynamic in hunting partners. So I'm just curious, gotten into any serious fights with your partners, and have you ever actually hit each other?
So
be honest.
So we hunted in heavy grizzly country this year, and Dirk and Donnie both carried firearms. They carried sidearms with them, and I didn't. And I got thinking, I threw them under the bus last year. They aren't carrying the sidearms for the grizzly bear. They're carrying a sidearm so when a grizzly comes, they can shoot me and run and be okay. And they're okay with that because I threw them under the bus. So it took, I had to spend the year mending the relationship with my hunting partners and in the hopes that they wouldn't throw me under the grizzly bear.
I'm anxious to get Dirk and Donnie on together without you.
No, there's no.
To get their side of Corey Jacobsen.
They don't like to talk. They're very shy on camera, on radio, on podcast, anything. So that probably wouldn't happen. I mean, no need to even ask them. Put them in an uncomfortable spot.
So has there been any blow-ups?
There hasn't. Donnie's personality is such that he is non-confrontational. He is 100% selfless. He is 100% a team player. And
so Donnie's a saint. So Donnie you can't get in a fight with Donnie.
You couldn't get in a fight with Donnie if you tried to. He is going to do what's best for the team and for the outcome of the hunt. And
so what about Dirk?
Dirk is more confrontational in a way that he will never confront you. Dirk, he is just, I think
Aaron is like that too.
You can tell when Dirk's upset, but he will never say anything. He'll voice his opinion in a way that is non-confrontational. And so there might be. So
you kind of have to read his mind a little bit and head him off.
I try not to, because then ignorance is bliss. and Dirk's mad right now. Let's talk about something that's going to get his mind off of what I just did to make him mad, and the whole squirrel thing. And no, we have not. And they may, if they come on the podcast, they may share other stories. They may be like, finally a platform to be able to complain about all the stupid things he does that drives me crazy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we all know the mission. Yeah. And we are a very tight-knit team. The that is there to be successful as elk hunters, as an elk hunting team, not as individual elk hunters.
Yeah.
And it is, I couldn't imagine a stronger team of individuals that are just so focused on the same goal. And, Donnie is not the best elk caller. He's not in the greatest shape. And I mean, as we're comparing to the elite level,
Yeah.
I am not any of those things. Dirk is not any of those things. But together as a team, I can't imagine a stronger team going out there and enjoying what we do from a success standpoint. Beyond that, and more importantly than that, I can't think of two guys that I would rather spend a week in elk country in September with, just because it's fun. We make it fun. They make it fun. And, I throw them under the bus more out of comedy and to make people laugh.
Because you care.
Yeah. It's builds character. Right?
Yeah.
That's what my wife always says. She's here as my spouse to keep me humble and to build character.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really agree with the ways you do it sometimes because it's hurtful. And, but no, at the end
Tough
of the
love.
day, yeah, exactly. It's that's how you care, is you're open enough to be able to share their weaknesses and make people laugh about them.
I would say Ben and I are cousins, and we grew up next door to each other since we were, since we could talk.
Yeah.
And I'm a year older than Ben. We got into arguments, just growing up, playing flag football in the yard or catching crawdads down at the river or whatever. We got into shoving matches and a few duke 'em out punches and teenagers and just stupid things that I don't know. We did dumb things. And as we got older, we kind of probably fought like brothers fight, and then as we hunted together, certainly we know each other backwards and forwards. I mean, his parents are practically like my parents and mine his. We grew up so much in each other's homes. And as we started hunting together, we fight, it just happens where we have different opinions on how things should go, but not a lot. I mean, for the most part, we totally understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so when something goes wrong, it's like, I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. And, I'm screwed this up, and we own those things. And as a team, we're like, sorry, man, I totally messed up that situation. I should have capitalized. And there's no resentment over it. We're like, let's dig in, and go after the next one.
Right.
And as Anthony came on board, same thing. We got into fights here and there, minor arguments, disagreements. But for the most part, we have the common goal, and we're super dedicated. And there's nobody we would rather hang out with for a week. And there's so much synergy between us and what we do. And it's just best friends hanging out. And then as I've hunted with Aaron, it's the same thing. Aaron is one of those people that doesn't complain or voice when he's upset.
Right. He'll just strangle you while he's smiling at you.
He just doesn't talk, or he'll just be like, are you okay? Is there something wrong? Did I do something? And he'll be like, no, it's cool. It's cool, but it's not cool.
Yeah.
There's something under there. And I think for Aaron, sometimes he's just deciding, is this me? Is this just me being, anal about something that I should just let slide? Or should I actually be upset about this because this guy's acting like an idiot, And so Aaron, I think sometimes he's just quiet, and so you're like, are we okay? And I'm Mr. Talk, right? Let's talk it out. And Aaron's not. Let's talk it out. Aaron's like, let's pretend it didn't happen, diffuse it with humor, and completely move on to another subject.
Give me some time and I'll forget about it.
Let's just ignore all issues and bury them and act like they're not there. Let's just make a joke. And so over time, things can fester.
Yeah.
And but with Aaron, it was awesome this year, and we've grown. Like Aaron said on a podcast with Bow Junkie, he's like, Brian's one of those people that I've got his back, and I'll defend him till the day I die. And if anybody tried to hurt him, I'd hurt him. They'd be sorry. Yep. At the same time, I might kill him myself. And it's true. I mean, and I think you get to be with someone
Yeah.
like that. And Aaron's intense. He's an intense person. I mean, as much as he's calm and laid back, he's also an extremely intense, driven person. And it's underneath that exterior that's kind of cool and funny and everything. And then there's that intense human underneath.
Yeah.
And
I think, I'm similar in that in our hunting group, I'm the one that's probably most likely to offend someone. I'm just, and it's not intentional. It's just that intensity that, we're moving in on an elk and somebody steps on a branch. I turn around and give them a look like,
I do
what
too.
did you just do? And they look at, it could very easily escalate. They could point out that I've broken 4 branches up to that point.
I'm like the pot calling the kettle
Yeah,
black. Like,
exactly.
"Aaron, shh." And he's thinking, you just stepped on 5 branches. I didn't say anything.
You've been
Get over
stumbling
it.
all the way up the trail here,
Right.
tripping on rocks, and I break 1 branch, and you're going to point out that?
And I think that was something for Aaron to. He's since then he's like, it's funny, we were hunting, and he told Ben Jackson when we were in Alberta, when I wasn't around, he goes, so in the stock, in the heat of the moment, what's going to happen is Brian's going to be like turning around going, shh, quiet, don't, it's got it. And he's like, it's not at all like he thinks you can't do it or anything. It's just in the heat of the moment.
Yep.
He just starts bossing you around. He's like, just go with it. And when he says, go over here, and you think you should go over there, just ignore him and go do what you want. That's what I do. And so it's funny. And I've learned about myself that I tend to do that. And it's just the intensity of the moment. I'm excited.
And it comes across, I think, it can come across as a control freak, as all of these things. But it ultimately, when we realize, and I think Dirk and Donnie realized that we all have the same goal.
Yeah.
And my goal is for our team to be successful. It doesn't matter if I'm the hunter or Donnie's the hunter or Dirk's the hunter. If they step on a branch, I'm going to be like, dude, we got to be quiet. It's because I want the team to be successful. And my wife said, we hunted with a film crew this year, and they didn't have a lot of elk hunting experience. And my wife was like, those poor guys don't know what they're in for. I need to warn them. And she said, I need to just start talking to anyone you hunt with and have a talk with them and warn them about, he's not really a jerk. It might come across that way, but just understand he's just really intense and really focused. Yeah. And my daughter, she's 11, and I drug her up and down some pretty steep, nasty country deer hunting a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And I'd taken her 2 years before when Isaac shot a whitetail, and it was, we were scaling off cliffs in the dark in a snowstorm at 9 years old. She's coming off and I really try to cater it to their level, but at the same time I push them, and I don't just sugarcoat a hunt. And this deer hunt, we hiked hard, and she spotted a buck across the canyon, and I'm moving frantically. It's just that quick, immediate decision reaction, and I'm trying to get her in position. I'm like, get over here, just really intense.
You're one of those dads.
Yeah, but I recognize that in myself, and so I'm telling her all the time, hey, you're doing awesome. We just got to move over here really quickly, and I'm explaining why. and then the deer comes. I move up the trail a little bit, trying to get a better look at the deer, because it's moved below us like 90 yards, and she can't see it. So I'm moving back. I'm like, where do I need to get her in position? And I look down, and it's moved 40 yards right below me, and she's 15 yards to my right, still looking down to where the deer was. And I'm trying to get her attention, and I am intense. It's like, right there. He's right there. Shoot him. And she's looking at me all sweet, and she's like, I don't know what you're saying. I'm like, he's right there. And the deer ends up winding us and blows out and takes off running. So I go down there. I'm like, we've got to get up the trail. So we're running, get up there. And I stand there. We don't see the deer. And pretty soon she's like, oh, there it is. And it's across the canyon, stopped across the draw there. And I'm like grabbing her backpack, like, we got to get down here and get
slamming her to the
set
ground.
up. And I'm like, sit right here, shoot. You've got 3 seconds, make it count, squeeze it off. And I'm just like all intense there. And I know I'm doing it. And she's just cool as a cucumber, and she lines it up and dials it up to 12 power and squeezes the shot and double lungs it, and the buck goes 10 yards and rolls down the hill. And she looks over, she's like, that was so much fun. Just all sweet. And I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I got really, really intense there for a minute. I was not mad at all.
Yeah.
I was not trying. And she's like, I know, that was a lot of fun, Dad. And, so I'm like, oh, thank goodness. She's right. She understands that.
I've been with Anthony, and I've also watched the video with Anthony with his children. Some of it will never see the light of day because it's just an embarrassment for Anthony. He's been there, and he's like, he's just that intense, right?
Yeah.
And and his son can't find the buck in the scope, and he's just freaking out, and he's trying to be the best dad ever, but he's also caught up in that heat of the moment and the intensity, and he's not trying to be mean. It's just there's just this intensity, and he's so excited. And when we were trying to help his dad get a bull elk, we did the film It's Not About the Horns. Well, there was a few years where there were previous hunts where Anthony tried hard to get his dad an elk for a long time. Well, Ben and I were there trying to help his dad as well, and it would come down to we were like, look, Anthony, you need to just be the caller, like 100 yards back.
Get back away from your dad.
Let us be up here with your dad, because otherwise you're going to make your dad feel like crap. You can't help it. You're so intense in that moment, and he recognized it too.
And totally, we recognize it.
Yeah, you can't help it though.
And I think a lot of it contributes to our success. It's that aggressive personality where, had my daughter been there with her personality and just slowly walked up the hill and sat down and got comfortable, that deer would have been gone. There would have been no shot. So I think it's...
Oh, absolutely. Anthony's dad sounds just like your daughter. Just, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all cool.
Yeah.
And Anthony's like you. We've established that in the past. You guys are like peas in a pod in a lot of ways. Like, I see so many similarities in your intensity and drive, but it absolutely impacts that success. I mean, Anthony's a very successful hunter, period.
And then you get outside of that situation and we're just all quiet and calm. My wife says all the time, she's like, you're a different person when you hunt. I don't know who you are. I've never seen the emotion and the reactions that I see when you come home with film from your hunts. And
I have this video of this elk. Ben calls it in, and Anthony's like, and I've never posted it. I should. It's on some old footage, but bull comes running in. Anthony's standing there, and he's like, shoot it, Brian, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, And I'm trying, but when the bull was coming in, I had the cow call in my mouth, and I'm about to cow call as it comes into this opening. He's 3 feet to my right, and he cow calls when it comes in an opening he has. So he stops it before I stop it. And I'm like, why you got to be such a control freak? Well, I got this, man. And so it stops with all these bushes in my way. And from his perspective, he's like, shoot the thing. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't because you blew your cow call instead of me.
Yep.
And so I have to slide over to get in position, and I'm inching my way across, and the bull's looking down the hill, and I get the shot, and I'm leaning cockeyed, and I make the shot, and bull runs. But while I'm sitting there trying to get the shot, Anthony's like so consumed in the moment. He's like, do it, come on, shoot it. And you can hear him, come on, Brian, come on. This is all on video. And he's like, after he watches it later, same thing with his dad or his daughter, he sits there and he's like, I'm such an idiot. Do you hear me? And he's like, I don't want people to see this. I act like such. I'm like, you know what, Anthony? It's you.
Yep.
And that intensity, I appreciate it. And yeah, it can be annoying sometimes, but I would rather have that than not have that, because that is what drives me to push me as well and to be successful. And that intensity is awesome. And
it can be. And it can be. And I think, my children understand that, we have the same mission. And dad being intense is not dad being mad. It's not dad, pushing too hard. It's a push. There's definitely a push. And Isaac last year on his rifle bull, he missed it a couple times initially. And I started like, that bull is not going to stand there for 5 more shots. You've got to hit it this time. Take your time. Hurry up and take your time. You know what? Not to that level, but I definitely push them out of their comfort, sit back and be comfortable zone. And, I hope they understand it's with their best interest in mind and the ultimate goal of success. And that goes back to hunting partners and everything. With
Aaron, there was a point where, he's like, he felt like I was criticizing his choices and what he did. And I'm really, like, when I ask or second guess actions, it's because I want to learn from it. So I'm extremely inquisitive, and so I'm like, so when I'm asking and proposing these thoughts and ideas on this, I'm not second guessing, someone's decisions at the moment, I'm going, okay, what could I have done different to make this be successful? And then I'm asking him the same questions, and he's like, it just didn't work this time. Like Aaron doesn't analyze like that. Like I'm like, I overanalyze, right? And I'm like, well, this and this and this, and he's just like, it didn't work. Let's go find another one. And so I'm driving him crazy, right? And it took a while for him to realize, because I'm really not. I'm like, Aaron's killed way more animals than I have. Aaron knows far more about a lot of this outdoor stuff than I do. And so when it comes across like I'm telling him, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
But that's not it at all.
You're questioning his tactic.
Right. That's not it at all. I don't ever presume that I've got it all figured out and this is how it's done. And so it took a while for, like you said, with your intensity and Anthony's intensity, I know now what that really is. Yeah. For Aaron, I had to learn, some of Aaron's quirks, what they really meant. Because when I looked at him from the outside, I perceived them differently than they really were. And same for me. Like, he perceived some of what I did as maybe critical or judgmental. And I'm like, oh, no, not at all. Like, there's no, when you step on a stick and I turn around and go, shh, that's just because I'm in the moment and feeling it. It's not because I think you're a moron and you can't you can't be sneaky.
I'm not pointing blame for why this hunt's falling apart.
Right.
Here I am trying to keep it together.
I'm just in the moment. Shh, we all gotta be quiet. It's time to be very sneaky. I'm just in it. I lose my mind. And Aaron has no emotion. Like, he unplugs. Like, you're like, after he shoots an animal, he hits it and it runs off, and you're like, and he's like, mopes back. Like, did you shoot it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I shot it.
Even the corner of his mouth doesn't come up in a
No.
snail. Sometimes I'll come back and be like, but they're like, you got it, didn't you?
Yep. No, Aaron's just like, it's like, are you happy you shot it or sad you shot it?
Are you mad?
There's no emotion at all, which was really neat because I did see some emotion this season. Like you said, your wife sees you and she's like, you're totally different. Who is this guy? I saw Aaron a number of times where I'm like, oh, it
is under there.
There is this passion, this like super excitement there. After he shot that bull with the recurve, he fell on the ground and he was just like, oh my gosh. And he talked about he was about ready to jerk a tear after it happened. He's just like, and that was so, there was a lot of emotion there, near tears kind of emotion. And Aaron's not a crier.
Yeah.
So pretty cool experience. But it's interesting. I think hunting partners are one of the best parts of hunting.
Oh, totally.
Those, you bond in a way you just don't otherwise. And there's, you can in other areas. So I'm sure, like in military circles and so forth, there's sports. But hunting, man, there is just a strong bond. Kate Jordan has now crawled underneath the camera like 5 times during this podcast. You have a good belly crawl.
No kidding. Man.
You should come to Alberta. Anyway, I think that it's a great thing. I get a lot of questions from guys saying, where do I find a good hunting partner and so forth. And we've talked about it a couple times, and that's a challenge. But when you do, you hold on to them.
And you have to nurture that relationship. It's not a, once a week you show up. It's like, oh, hey, you're right back on. It's a deep friendship, deep relationship there. That there's trust. There is commonality in the goals. There is understanding of weaknesses and strengths.
And I think when there is a fallout, you can't just let that relationship go so lightly.
Right.
You can't just throw it away.
And I look at so many people that I know that have had multiple relationships with hunting partners, and it's always pride that comes in between. It's always the selfish ego, the competition between hunting partners that causes that division. When you're on the same team and you work just as, I want to kill an elk. There's no, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I want it to be my turn to be the shooter.
Yeah.
But I know that the sooner that I can fill Donnie and Dirk's tag as the caller, it gets me into that position. And, that goal to be successful, to help them, to contribute to their success is just as much a drive as myself being successful.
Yeah.
And when that gets out of balance and you're thinking about you filling your tag and them filling their tag becomes secondary, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It can't work. And, it goes back to extreme ownership and all of that. It's got to be about the team. And when it's not, it falls apart.
Yep. Well, Corey, appreciate you coming on the podcast, chatting with me, hanging out some more. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Folks, go check out elk101.com and check out the school and the online course if you haven't done that, and look for new stuff coming your way.
Lots of new stuff.
Got any giveaways going on right now?
We're always giving stuff
You
away.
are.
Just make sure you're on our email list. You
That's
go
right.
to elk101.com, go down to the bottom, sign up for our newsletter, because we continually, I have got a shelf in my office filled with gear from all of our sponsors.
Yeah.
We've got a pile of Vortex optics sitting there just waiting to be given away
for
Black
you
Eagle
to win.
arrows. Yeah, I mean, we've got tons of stuff to give away, so don't miss out on that opportunity. Sign up for the email list, and we've got some really, really. Maybe we'll have to talk about some of the exciting things we have coming up on a future podcast.
That'd be great,
because we've really the online course was kind of our big step into a launch of something cool. And it spawned a whole bunch of other ideas and opportunities.
We still gotta get back on the show, because I want to get your elk hunting lessons learned, mistakes made,
recap
kind of
from the
recap.
season.
Yep.
Yeah,
because that's always fun. So we'll do that here soon. So, thanks folks for listening. Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, stay gritty.
Stay gritty. In 1907, only 41,000 elk remained in North America. And in 1950, only 12,000 pronghorn remained. Today, there are more than 1 million elk and 1.1 million pronghorn. Why? Because hunting is conservation. In 1937, hunters actually requested an 11% tax on guns, ammo, bows, and arrows to help fund conservation. That tax so far raised more than $8 billion for wildlife conservation. Altogether, hunters pay more than $1.6 billion a year for conservation programs. No one gives more. It's obvious that hunters care about animals, and yet we actively hunt and kill them. Many people cannot understand this dichotomy. How can we both care about animals and also kill them? It's a question that I challenge all of you to consider. Here is an excerpt from the Gritty Bowmen film, Alberta, with a quote from Fred Bear that describes my feelings on this subject. The first shot on this buck was fatal, and it cleanly pierced his vitals, but he didn't go down. I hate to see animals suffer, and when possible, I will always shoot them again if I have the opportunity. I have tremendous respect for this buck and his will to survive. He didn't go down easy, and I have mixed emotions about that. At times like this, I am reminded of a quote by Fred Bear, which somewhat describes my thoughts on this matter. Quote, I have always tempered my killing with respect for the game pursued. I see the animal not only as a target, but as a living creature with more freedom than I will ever have. I take that life if I can, with regret as well as joy, and with the sure knowledge that nature's way of fang and claw and starvation are a far crueler fate than I bestow. I do not hunt for the joy of killing, but for the joy of living, and the inexpressible pleasure of mingling my life, however briefly, with that of a wild creature that I respect, admire, and value. We can argue as much as we like, but the fact is, hunting is man's oldest and most successful try at life. Every human being is alive today because our ancestors hunted. So it's a relatively new phenomenon for people to regard hunting as a cruel and frivolous activity that has no worth outside of personal gratification for the hunter. The funny thing is, hunting has increased my appreciation for wild animals and wild places, not decreased it. And as I watch society lose its ties to wildlife and conservation, I feel my bond with nature grow ever stronger in direct correlation to my time spent hunting. I understand now more than ever that hunting is the greatest hope for creating the next generation of true conservationists. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting in the outdoors. Our wild animals and wild places depend on it. We thank Kifaru, Mountain Ops, Hoyt, Vortex, Phelps Game Calls, Black Eagle Arrows, and Crispy Boots for supporting the Gritty Bowmen. We love these companies and the people behind them. They truly make fantastic products. Please support them however you can. As always, good luck on your hunts and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Gritty Bowmen.
Can we pre-approve this, Brian, before you put it up?
So anyway, I'm sure we'll cover a lot of things that'll probably irritate people, and some guys will agree with. Because anytime you talk about this, there's like these far opposing sides of the fence, and there's some middle of the road. So
I just can't buy into the whole face paint thing. That's so
like special ops. You put it on, you just feel.
But then you got to wash your face.
And then when it came to the shot, it's like, oh my God,
Autopilot.
there's the shot. Autopilot, save me, right? Bung, and off the arrow would go.
And I answered him, but I'm asking you that
I want to hear
question.
your answer. No, I want to hear your answer.
This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.